Now, a move by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to have politicians seek clearance from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is causing major jitters among political aspirants ahead of the August 8th general election. In the bill introduced to the National Assembly in February, IEBC wants changes to election regulations law to allow EACC to clear candidates seeking all elective posts: presidency, governor, senator, woman representative, member of parliament and member of county assembly. The proposal is to amend section 47 of the election regulations by providing that a person seeking elective position shall obtain and submit clearance from EACC as prescribed under the Leadership and Integrity Act of 2012. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati says the integrity of candidates participating in the polls will be cleared this week. He says the technical committee formed between IEBC and EACC will hand over the report. Then they will issue guidelines on how to go about the clearance of candidates for the elections. IEBC is also working with Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Mutiangi to weed out candidates with fake educational documents before they submit their nomination papers to the Commission. And we're asking you this morning, do you really support the move by the IEBC to have politicians seeking elective posts be cleared by EACC? Right? Do you support the move by the IEBC to have politicians seeking elective posts be cleared by the EACC? Hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 our SMS portal. Remember to use the hashtag AM Live NTV, which is, of course, our Twitter handle. And I'm holding court this morning with Herman Manyora, who is a political analyst here, a resident analyst, also a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. We have also Igembe South Member of Parliament, Mithika Linturi, and also we have the Deputy Minority Leader of the National Assembly and also Member of Parliament from Igembe, that is Jakoyo Midiwo, and Senator Kimani Wamatangi, who is a senator from Kiambu. Boni Khalwale is away for the County Legislative Assembly in Mombasa, and we continue the discussion. Before we took a short break, I think we were on you, Jakoyo Midiwo.
Yes.
And I interrupted you. I hope you've not lost your track of thought before we embark on the discussion of the day.
Yes, and I hope Debarl, you will let us also comment on this IEBC requirement.
Yes.
But back to where we were.
That's our topic this morning, of course.
Yes, I was just saying that the president cannot get away by always just saying things to do politics. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look back since 2013,
yes,
the Jubilee government has taken a lot of pride in the so-called laptops. And I've said here for quite some months now that they don't call them laptops anymore, they call them gadgets.
Yes.
Basically toys. And in the president's last address, where he was giving his scorecard, mm-hmm. He did not talk about laptops. The second thing, which was missing, which was replaced by the lies about Kenya Power, mm-hmm. was the 1 million acres in Kunana Gulalu, which was supposed to produce millions of bags of maize. Now the same government is saying they want to import maize from Europe to bring here. Remember, there is drought, but remember, monies have been spent on irrigation. So the issue of drought cannot be a reason why we don't have maize produced in Coast Province, because there is water. Plenty of it. So
we cannot raise accusatory fingers to drought?
We cannot.
This is poor planning from government.
And it was an election pledge that we are going to put 1 million acres of land under irrigation. and monies have been spent. Israel was involved. Remember, the Prime Minister of Israel was here some time back. Never toured that project, never visited it.
Yes.
Now, you know, in all this, the president is trying to hope that Kenyans can forget. Then he comes up and says, in September,
yes,
after elections, the officers, the people who consume 50% of our GDP in terms of salary, the salaries are going to be reduced. And Salaries and Remuneration Commission says we have no idea what he's talking about. Now, would that really inspire confidence? Debarl, what I really abhor as a leader in this country, the imagination that leaders think Kenyans are stupid. That somebody sits and comes and uses, you know, that day is a heavily funded day, using taxpayers' money, expecting the leadership of this country to come and tell us, give us some hope. It says nothing about the hunger. In fact, he asked Parliament to rise and honor our fallen heroes in Somalia, and said we will fight there forever because the war is better there than here. You know, now we have, but the day before that day, 15 people were killed in Baringo. He did not mention the people who were dying in Baringo. Then a couple of days later, he says the military is deployed against the articles of the Constitution,
right,
the requirements of the Constitution.
All right.
So what are we, is the president lawless in thinking, or is somebody misguiding him? Or he just needs prayers?
Did we have a sense of deja vu also when we saw the parliamentarians really rising to honor the KDF soldiers who were gunned down, or we lost them during the battle at Kulboye? Because last year, I think during the presidential also a set of a nation address, we saw the same thing happening, where we had the member of opposition, Vosira, not really, you know, honoring that particular gesture of also honoring our soldiers as well. So,
see, the president,
are we none the wiser when it comes to learning? And also, as what Mheshimiwa is saying here regarding people who died in Baringo, there are almost 8 people also who've died of hunger. He's not mentioned anything at all.
you see, the president cannot mention everything. People have blamed the president for not saying something, not even saying a word or pole to the families of those who lost their loved ones in Somalia. So when he does it in Parliament, yes, I think it's enough. But the country is facing challenges, Debarl. Issues in Baringo, taking the military there, whether it is unconstitutional or not. The only problem I have with taking the military in places like Laikipia is when the British foreign secretary comes here, because one white man has been killed, and we have mobilized everything in this country just to address the death of that one white man. The death, like I said, of anybody is bad, but when we reduce ourselves to that level, I hate it. I wanted to comment on this thing, Debarl.
Yes.
So that really, because we want to help our government, and we want to help Wamatangi, some of those of us who are Jubilee, we want to win and go back. You see, let's do less of PR. This is what I'm trying to say. You see, when you say that you are going to reduce salaries, this is pure PR. First of all, we had a national conversation on the so-called bloated wage bill immediately after Jubilee came to power. I don't know whether we have forgotten, and spent huge sums of money on that. We have commissioned consultants who have been working on rationalization and harmonization of salaries. They have finished everything except for the universities, the military, and parastatals, which I understand is to be done by end of July. We have promised Kenyans that at the end of this, there are new pay structures which have been given. It is also going to come with higher salaries. The government itself in its budget has set aside 100 billion shillings to up the salaries of public servants come July this year. Then in the same breath you tell us we want to lower the salaries. Now this seems to be keeping in the trend of PR and things that are half measures, which I think is not good for this country, Wamatangi. Look, at some point we retrenched Kenyans, painfully. Some people even died when they received those letters of retrenchment because it was kept secret. Some collapsed, some fainted. Okay? What happened? A few months later, people were re-employed. We said we want to save the country. We are going to stop using these fuel guzzlers. We rounded all the Mercedes-Benz, put them in some, you remember that, Debarl? Mm-hmm. What happened to those Mercedes? How much money have we sold from them? The big vehicles are back in the streets. We say about the bloated wage bill, yet we know where the problem is. The government is spending huge amounts of money because of consultants, because of seminars, Mombasa, Naivasha, because of foreign trips.
Benchmarking.
Because of allowances, sitting allowances. We were told in this country, and people were shocked, that the Judicial Service Commission was drawing 80,000 shillings per sitting. I am told people like this SRC lady, what is her name? It could be wrong, but I am made to understand she gets like 50,000 sitting allowance on top of her 700,000 or so salary. Look here, we know what we will do to reduce the salaries. Cut out these seminars, cut out this training, cut out foreign trips, remove all these sitting allowances, and the wage bill will settle down nicely. What training is there? What consultants are you doing?
Okay.
If you are a CEO of an organization, why do you need some consultant to help you do your work? Just do it.
You know, Debarl, I think.
So this is what I'm saying. Let me just wind up.
Let's say from Mithika will come to you.
I am saying, because we want this country to move forward, we don't want the wastage. And I'm saying this country, we were told, spent 600 billion on 2% of the population. But we were also told by President Kenyatta, we know, finance minister, this country wastes away through corruption, theft, and wastage 3/4 of its income.
All right,
Today's budget, it would mean we would waste through corruption, stealing, and wastage 600 billion, the equivalent of what we are.
Let's say from Mithika, Linturi.
This is what I'm talking about. These are facts you cannot run away from.
Okay, I thought we were giving a one line on this. We go to the topic of the day. One line, please. Yes.
Was that Professor's one line?
That is one line. I was starting you off.
This was a preamble. Okay, let's have a one liner from Mithika Linturi briefly on this as we wind up and we go to the leadership and integrity topic.
In Debarl, I am a person who does not believe in trying to address the wage bill of this country that we must reduce people's salaries. It is not right. And if you have many children or you decide to have many children, the best thing to address food problem in the house is not denying the ratio of food to children, but try and work hard, raise that extra income and be able to feed your family. I am saying this because, you know, anybody in public service, and especially when certain statements have been made by a reputable person, like the end of state, like anybody, a commissioner like this SRC, which has power and Article 230 to set salaries for state officers. What I would expect is and immediately they make these pronouncements, there is something we call the principle of legitimate expectation for anybody that is working. So anytime that you do not live up to that spirit or that promise, you know, there is likelihood of bringing some bit of discomfort and loss of morale in whatever we are doing. So I think, in my view, and because Parliament has really been the issue, it's not the reduction of member of salaries of a Parliament that to solve the wage bill of this problem. Yes. Because the members are paying very little money, 398,000 shillings is my basic pay. That's what I am paid, and I don't think that really have any serious impact on the wage bill of this country. But if we were to become firm and saying this, we have a bloated legislature. We want to bring down the members of parliament from CU 439 to 150, 180, so that as a member of parliament, the honor comes back and goes back. But this aspect of having 430 when the same parliament, when you can do the same legislative work, oversight and whatever it is,
100 people.
With 100 people, in my view, that is what we need to be focusing on and tell the public, kindly please, because this will be opposed by the members of parliament, please be firm. This is how to go about it. Because a member of parliament is a very unique creature. And people this have never understood, because whenever we talk about it, no, 1 minute.
Yes.
You know, this is the only state officer who has two offices. An office in Nairobi and an office in the village. So you have to to shuttle between Nairobi and say, for example, Igembe or Kiambu or wherever. So even when you talk about salary and take that allowance of driving the vehicle from Nairobi to Meru as part of your income or emoluments, is completely wrong, because that money has a specific purpose for which it must be spent on.
Right. Let's hear from Jakoyo.
Yes,
In fact, let me hear from Kimani Wamatangi, because actually you opened after the break.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Debarl. I don't want to take a long time on this. Just wanted to correct that impression created that that when we are trying to address the question of reducing salaries, we are going the wrong way. You know, I want to remind my colleagues here that you see, in leadership, there is a principle that you cannot ignore. The principle of promoting a more equal society, where you talk about shared opportunities, where you embark on ensuring that you reduce the gap between the rich and the poor, the have and have-nots, whether you're going to rationalize everything else, but you must work towards determinedly reducing that gap, whereby you have somebody who earns 5 million shillings a month and another Kenyan of the same citizenship and equal rights. And I want to remind you, Professor, you are a scholar. You have read books. I want to ask you and remind you of the quote by the famous author who said that all of God's children must have shoes to walk on this earth. You see, I mean, there is no way you can say that when we go and create more opportunities and reduce corruption, but at the same time, you're talking about a society where a man and a woman...
On the compression
listen, my friend, just hold your house.
Make laws on the compression ratio.
You had your 5 minutes.
All right, you're one line as well.
But you see, the question I'm addressing here, Debarl,
yes,
is the question that is most pertinent to every Kenyan. That you have people who live opposite Runda in a slum called Githogoro. That you have people who live alongside the people in Karen in a slum called Kibera. Correct. That in Muthaiga you have the opposite of Mathare. Okay. And unless you can look at this and know that you have to address it as an issue, all right. All those people have got equal rights.
All right, we'll leave it to another day.
Citizens. So in the question, and what was addressed by the president was that only 2% of Kenyans enjoy more than half of all the taxes paid by every Kenyan. Yeah, but that is the issue.
All right, we need to wind it up.
Yeah,
no.
Let me just
it is 7:30. We have only 20 minutes to go. Let's just go to the topic of the day, unless now we can save this for another day. Please.
But it is important to Debarl. This is a very important thing. This issue of wastage. I don't think Wamatangi
we cannot exhaustively talk about wastage today. All right. Okay, we need to tackle this issue of leadership and integrity, because it's very key, even as we're getting up towards general election. We have, and I'm given to understand that the president has given an issue, a firm instruction to the Jubilee aspirants, people who want the Jubilee tickets, to anyone without the EACC clearance shall not be given that particular ticket. And according to some news sources, the president is determined to ensure that those running on the party ticket did not carry or do not carry excessive baggage. First of all, do you agree with what IEBC and EACC, they're actually colluding to do to make sure that, of course, every aspirant is sifted, right, before going to the polls? And if at all these aspirants will be sifted, will they really pass muster when it comes to leadership and integrity? And what is this excessive baggage that the president is talking about?
See, is it Midiwo?
Yeah, let's start with you.
When this question was put squarely to IEBC and the judiciary of this country in 2013, what did they do, 2012, 2013? Swalitoroka. They were asked, will you as IEBC clear people who are suspected of this and this, and you know what I'm talking about. What did they say? They say, no, don't bring it, it has not come. And when it came, what did they say? Well, everybody is innocent until proved guilty. And they quoted the Constitution. They said, yes, until you exhaust all judicial mechanism, that even if you are jailed as a rapist in this country, and you have an pending appeal, IEBC will clear you. Most recently, Debarl, you will remember,
yes,
about a week or two ago, a man from prison called Waiganjo, the so-called fake policeman. I don't believe he's fake. I believe he was working for the system. This Waiganjo wrote to IEBC telling them, I want to stand for it in Joro or somewhere. What did the IEBC reply? Say, you are. They cleared it. They said, because you have a pending appeal, we cannot stop you. We failed the integrity test in 2013 because of the high stakes that were involved, because it involved people who are facing the charges against humanity, crimes against humanity. They later became president and deputy. I understand how difficult it was for IEBC and the judicial. You could not have stopped these two. You could have caused chaos in this country. But because we failed that time, let us not pretend today we can do. Because our courts and our courts are incapable of helping us. Even when MPs jump from one part to other, they form their own parties, you know, and they are still members of those parties for which, on which they stood. You take this thing to the institutions like courts, like the Register of Politics, nothing happens, Parliament. Let us not deceive Kenyans. Let us not fool ourselves. We are playing PR, like I've said. Our Parliament is full of people who should not be there.
So is this,
and we have no mechanism of stopping. We are talking about, for example, of education. What education are you talking about? What education are you talking about? The one I see in this country? Who are the most educated people? They are the most corrupt. They are the thieves. It's the engineers who are certifying roads.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from about. Okay, we'll come into education. Because who are the most tribal Kenyans? All right, there's the issue also of fake degrees, which are actually also very flash in the market right now. Yeah. And of this, especially these fake degrees, they're coming from most of the legislators that we have in the House. I had a pleasure of also speaking to one of the vice chancellors, and he's alluded to this fact, yes, that some even legislators have approached him. They say, Bwana VC, can we organize something? Can you organize something in 2 weeks? That's right? What I wanted to I have a certificate in 2 weeks.
I wanted to conclude my contribution.
Yes, we open. We'll open later. But let's
give Professor an opportunity.
You see, it's good to demand that people be educated, because education, like religion, brings out the best in man, in terms of values, in terms of attitude. But look at it. Most of the degrees we have today in this country, a good number of them, really are not even worth the paper on which they are written. The people who are educated in this country are the most corrupt, like I'm saying. They are the people who give Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo sleepless nights, because they are the most tribal people. They practice tribalism to extreme levels, those who are educated. So even as we demand people should be educated, I'm wondering, what would be easier? To demand that somebody be of integrity or somebody have a degree? If the system lets through murderers and rapists and thieves and conmen, why demand a paper from somebody? You get what I'm saying? But education is supposed to be a good thing.
All right, but we can see people who are gaming the system right now, because we are given to understand one legislator who was denied, I think, clearance by the DCI, went to State House, and within a few moments he walked out with his certificate of good conduct.
The system is not foolproof.
So how is the system really working? If a person will flout all the rules and go to State House, then he comes out also with a clearance certificate of good conduct. Are we really serious when it comes to really making sure that they pass through this grid? Let's hear from Mithika Linturi.
Debarl, how I wish that anybody that is in a position of influence or power was able to live within the law and the Constitution. Because these issues should not be arising. We have a clear Constitution which spells out the qualifications of any member running for political office. And you read this Constitution in awesomely, you realize that the kind of conditions that either Jubilee or anybody else will be bringing are completely unreasonable, are completely unconstitutional. Because the aspect, for example, and I agree with the professor saying that yes, it's good to have the qualifications, but the qualifications are not a reflection of your capacity to pull a country forward, push a country forward, because what matters most, in my view, is the patriotism in you, is the value system. As we have a value system that has been able to create leaders to stand the test of time. That is the most critical, because, and why I say this, is the Mwananchi, that if we, the common Mwananchi himself is one that has the constitutional power to pick on who his leader is. And when you look at our constitution, they say that you should never impose unreasonable conditions for anybody that is seeking to run for any political office. So the aspect of, for example, denying or subjecting officers to IEBC, and IEBC is an institution that we do not have trust in. And even if we earned, for example, and even if anybody, and any case pending, and as long as there is an appeal, as a professor is saying, that will not be a bar to running for any political office. And for example, I would want to invite anybody to look at Article 182D of the Constitution of Kenya to show or to prove that all these conditions are worthless, are meaningless, because the Constitution itself anticipated a situation whereby even a leader would be jailed, like a governor. Even if you stole all the county cash and went to court and jailed for a period not exceeding 12 months, does not warrant you to leave office, despite conviction. That is what the Constitution says. So when you come and with other conditions here as a party, saying that because you have no certificate of good conduct, and you know, immediately your fingerprints are taken by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, you'll never get one, in my view, is unreasonable. It's not, it should not happen, and we are trying to promote the disrespect of the law.
So you're actually saying disrespect of the law, and you are the same legislators that we have 5 years back. You are actually mutilating the leadership and integrity, chapter 6 of the Constitution.
What I am saying.
Right. So what the ESCC is trying to do and the IEBC is trying to do is actually to, somehow buttress this particular legislation that is so weakened by the legislators.
No, it's not weakened by the legislators. What I'm telling you, I'm making reference to, is the Constitution of Kenya. Any law is subsidiary to the Constitution. So any law that in its own way tries to contravene what is provided for in the Constitution itself, then that law, right, is unconstitutional. All right,
so are we
that's why I was trying to say the Constitution,
Thank you.
Even if you are to be jailed.
Are we having an exercise in futility with what the IEBC and the ESCC is trying to do? Because also already, this is not predicated in the Constitution. It's not illegal, as they say. Well, and we have Omutata. Omutata who's gone to court, and he argues that the impugned requirement is a legal nullity, as it is contrary to the doctrine of being presumed innocent until proven guilty, as well as the right to refuse to give self-incriminating evidence.
Well, that is the argument that won in 2013. It's the argument that gave us the two bad leaders, Uhuru and Ruto, because people who are accused of crimes against humanity were led by some legal argument to become the leaders of our country. You cannot change that, especially when they are the ones at the helm. Let me tell you, this country can only get
let him finish. Let me
inform my brother.
No, let him finish first. Let him finish.
He's angry about the point of...
No, let him finish. We'll give you time.
Quickly. Yeah. Inform him.
So I don't want him to make inform me not to make reference to that particular provision, because when this case and Ruto being banned from running for office, that would have contravened his right. And because you remember, after going through the legal process at the Hague, he was acquitted.
He's not acquitted. Right? The cases are suspended. Don't mislead Kenyans. Let me just tell you that what we are faced with, we are the leaders who, in fact, I was on the other side, which argued in favor of the proper interpretation of Chapter 6 of our Constitution. They used all manner of intimidation. Now we are here. The same Jubilee is now saying, you must give a certificate of good conduct. You must be cleared by ESCC. Now let me tell you this, Debarl. Who is ESCC? In this country, ESCC is the most corrupt institution. Yes. It will qualify when the chicken come home to roost, or when chips fall. That ESCC, we have said here, Mithika and I, that there is no ESCC of integrity as long as the Secretariat is intact. The same ones who gave interpretation, the Secretariat of IEBC is still intact. Now, you only get leaders from amongst yourselves. This country cannot call leaders corrupt. I think this country is a hotbed of corruption which permeates across all sections of the population. So we will end up with corrupt leaders, because if you look at the campaigns going on today, what do you see? You have people who are, some people who are all of a sudden have been jobless, and are giving people money in the villages. So the people will vote for them for 100 or 50 shillings. But the people don't know where they have gotten this money from. So that it is not, we don't have the wish or the will to question, because the state has condemned our people to stay hungry and be poor at heart. Now, my last thing is this issue of the degree requirement. The Jubilee government, remember, we had the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee a few months ago. We knew MPs would not pay attention. So we said, if people are going, if MCAs are going to be oversighting governors, there must be people with enough aptitude to interrogate the budgets. If MPs are going to properly do this, people must have at least a degree. Now, you know what happened when we fought in December? You know why people were fighting? There are over 100 MPs in the current National Assembly without, I think the number is like 136, without degrees. So what did my good friend Duale do? Because they wanted to pass a bad elections law, Duale went and put in that act that the degree requirement is suspended until 2022. So the people who are fist fighting, who are really fighting, the ones on the court side, now were playing ball, they didn't show up to Parliament. The Jubilee ones were fighting. Anybody who was angry in Parliament, who was fighting, fist fighting, in fact, they nearly killed us. When I said they were even letting to bring guns, it was not because they wanted the bad law. It was because Duale had duped them. The Jubilee government had duped them.
All right.
That they are safe if the bill passes.
Okay, let's hear from Wamatangi.
That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Thank you, Debarl. I want to say three things and take the shortest time possible. The first is on the allegation that the president seemingly or presumably has given a directive about qualifications and about clearance by EACC. And I want to remind not only you, but also those that are listening today, that the requirement that one be cleared by EACC is not a presidential directive. Actually, the president doesn't have to direct it. He has not either. I mean, he was only citing what is in law. The law requires for you to be nominated by a political party. Amongst the documents that you present to your political party to clear you are the clearance by a credit reference bureau, that you are clear of those debts, that you have your
regulation.
The EACC document which they have to clear you. Those are the requirements for the party to nominate you. If for example, my friends here I see Jakoyo shaking his head. If you're taking your documents for nomination, your political party will require you to take those documents along with you from a credit reference bureau, from EACC, on integrity, and so on. And if you remember, I don't know whether you looked at yesterday's cartoon, and I think it was in your own daily, where they were saying that we have replaced the entire of Chapter 6 with a document called the Certificate of Good Conduct.
Yeah.
So it was in one of the dailies.
You see,
Now,
We just shown it.
oh, you did show.
Let me just show it again.
when you are speaking.
Yeah,
So-
just continue.
So what I want to say and to clear is that the president is not directing anyone. That is a requirement that you be cleared. Now the question is here, and this has always been the gray area. When one submits your documents to
I'm sorry to butt in.
The political
Is this the
party.
particular cartoon you're talking about, where the president saying my government has made it easier for every Kenyan to run for office by successfully replacing Chapter 6 with Certificate of Good Conduct.
Well, no, there was another one. There was another one, I think it was in the Standard.
This is from the Standard.
And something very, very close, similar. But the point is this, the point I'm trying to make is this. Listen, that if you read the law, in the requirements for you to run for office, it requires in one of the sections that you should not have contravened.
We have the Constitution there. Can you make reference to it then? Where are you quoting from?
Hang on. It requires that you should not have contravened Chapter 6 in any way. And you know how diverse Chapter 6 is on leadership and integrity for you to qualify to run. Now, the gray area is this. And hence what you are saying that the IEBC is proposing to bring an amendment to the regulations. Because, and this is a question I personally posed to the chairman of IEBC,
yes,
the one who left, in our committee when he came to the Public Accounts Committee. When somebody seeking to run for office goes to the political party and profiles his document and is given a nomination certificate to go and present to IEBC, what does IEBC do to verify that indeed the process that one has got to go through to ensure that he is clear of corruption and has obtained that certificate properly, or the clearance by EACC has been done to its fullest? That was my question. And you know, the answer by the chairman was very simple. That is the work of the political party. The law only requires me from IEBC to see a nomination certificate from a political party saying that we have cleared this candidate. But IEBC at that point is not required to ask you as a candidate, how did you get cleared by EACC? That ends at the political party level. Now, I'm moving
on. All right,
you
said very shortly.
I want to make my point first, so that then we can get into the details. Because you interrupt my flow of thought. Now, listen, my friend Debarl. When we are in this forum, the other thing I want to say is that we cannot reduce or allow this forum where we really discuss top ideas to be informed by rumors. You know, when you say that allegedly or supposedly by some rumor that a candidate went to State House and got cleared, I mean, what evidence do you have of that? Well, I mean, that is all right. Is
we need to be winding up.
That is fine, but you don't wind up because I've brought a point that maybe is sticky. First, because you have said it on air, that it is alleged that there was a candidate who went to State House and a phone call was made, yes, and then he was cleared.
But it's in the public domain. Isn't that in the public domain?
But you have no proof of
that. It's in the public domain. We have reliable news sources.
Let me make my point. Everybody else here makes their point, yes, in peace. So let me make my point, and you can also rebut it. Every issue that we debate here is either drawn from this paper or from other information that you can rely on. So what I'm simply saying is we cannot feed on rumors. It has got to be guaranteed. Let me make then my last point on what you said.
Okay, we need to wind up.
About corruption.
I will come in.
You know, if the one statement that Manyora made and the other people made equals to my time, I would be speaking for another 5 minutes, but I'll speak for one. Now, I wanted to say this, Debarl, and sorry to bring those issues, but we have to be factual.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't shy away from being factual. Now, on the question of corruption, and if you look at how campaigns are being done now, I want to tell you, and sometimes you must follow the law. For example, look at what is happening in counties when governors now are running for their positions. You know what they're doing? They are abusing the constitution by simply calling for public participation and turning public participation forums into campaigns. And you may ask anybody from the counties, any governor now who is campaigning just does not need to spend his money.
Thank you.
They spend government
money.
All right,
thank you.
They call for public participation and turn it into a political meeting.
All right.
So the question of integrity, the question of the level of corruption, the question of clearance for somebody to run for office has got to find a new route in law. And were it not that what the IEBC is proposing is highly prone to abuse, because again, if, for example, you give that...
All right, thank you. Let's hear from... We have 3 minutes to wind up, please.
That should be the way to go.
Okay.
Let me clarify a few things.
Very briefly,
Because I think I was also misunderstood. It is true that the Constitution and our laws presumes you innocent until proved guilty. It is equally true that Article 182D, like Linturi says unless if governor may be removed if he has been sentenced for a period of over 12 months. But you cannot read the Constitution in one article in isolation. The same Constitution gives us chapter 6, which is so elaborate as to override a single line provision in the Constitution. Number 2, if you read the Constitution again under Article 10 on leadership values, national values, it will tell you a person who has been jailed or a rapist or a murderer should not be a leader. But more importantly, the same Constitution says the president may be impeached for, among other things, if he is accused, not even indicted, accused of international crimes. You see, then the Constitution seems to be telling you, look here, we understand you have your rights as a citizen, but we're also talking about issues of integrity. That matters of integrity cannot be understood within the narrow understanding of the law. Otherwise, you are telling us if somebody is accused of rape and jailed, we will elect him until he exhausts all appeal mechanisms. That's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution doesn't envisage a situation like that. But because we have allowed it to operate like that, because we have suspended chapter 6, I am saying all this thing is an exercise in futility because we allowed ourselves to suspend the provisions of chapter 6. That's why we have rapists, murderers, conmen, and all these bad people in parliament and in leadership.
All right. As we're winding up, of course, just to read a bit of the chapter 6 of the Constitution, and of course, all of us should acquaint ourselves with chapter 6 of the Constitution. It says, subsection 73, authority assigned to a state officer is a public trust to be exercised in a manner that is consistent with the purposes and objects of this Constitution. Demonstrate respect for the people, brings honor to the nation and dignity to the office, and promotes public confidence in the integrity of the office, and vests in the state officer the responsibility to serve the people rather than the power to rule them. The guiding principle of leadership and integrity include selection on the basis of personal integrity, competence, suitability, or election in free and fair elections, objectivity and impartiality in decision-making, and in ensuring the decisions are not influenced by nepotism, favoritism, and other improper motives or corrupt practices. Selfless service based solely on the public interest demonstrated by honesty in the execution of public duties and the declaration of any personal interest that may conflict, I should say, with the public duties. Accountability to the public for decisions and actions. And it goes on and on and on.
So you can read for use.
So we're asking you Kenyans, if they really go through this particular chapter of the Constitution, will they really pass muster? Right? As we're winding up, I just want to see what the MPs and the legislators are doing to Kenyans. And of course, this was an editorial cartoon by Gado way back. Right? And he says, as if milking the cow dry was not enough. Let's just show it. This is what the MPs are doing to Kenyans. This is a cow, which is Kenya. It has a band-aid there. It is emaciated. The MPs are carrying a wad of cash there, and the pose of goons, you can see them, and you can see one of the legislators. We'll leave it to your imagination what they're doing. You're talking of rep. This is what they've been doing to Kenyans. They've been repping this country, and if we do not take action on the leadership and integrity, this is our Kenya. It is
our country.
It is our country. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really do appreciate it. We'll extend this discussion. The director, she's on my. We'll do it next week.